Let's talk about a central, deeply confusing tension that happens in later life. It's this strange moment when you finally step back from your career, you're ready for some peace, some autonomy, and suddenly you find that your adult children, who are fully grown, begin to demand more of your time, your resources, and your emotional energy than ever before. If this sounds at all familiar to you, you are definitely not alone. And more importantly, it is not your fault.
Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. This experience isn't a sign that your family's broken or that your kids are ungrateful. Not at all. It's actually a phenomenon that's become so common and it has a structural cause. What you're feeling isn't a personal failure, it's really just the result of these massive societal and generational shifts all colliding at once. And, just understanding that, that's the very first step toward finding a healthier, more sustainable way forward.
So why is this happening right now? It feels like the old rulebook for family dynamics just got tossed out the window. Well, this new pressure isn't random. It's the result of a collision between two very, very different generational realities. Your world is changing in one direction, while your adult children's world is changing in a completely different one. Let's take a look at what that actually means. Okay, this slide just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you've got what's called the availability paradox. You've likely retired, your time is much more flexible, and you're more available than you've been in decades. But on the other side, your kids are probably right in the thick of sandwich generation stress. They are completely squeezed, raising their own families, juggling demanding careers, and facing all kinds of economic pressures. So your newfound availability is crashing right into their new and intense need.
And that clash, it creates the absolute perfect storm for something called sacrifice creep. It doesn't happen overnight, it's this slow, sneaky, gradual increase in how much you give. An extra afternoon of babysitting here, a small loan there, another late-night phone call to help solve a crisis. Each one on its own feels totally manageable and like the right, loving thing to do. But over time, they stack up, pushing you way beyond what's actually sustainable for your own health and your finances.
And here's the tricky part, the internal piece that actually fuels all this. Psychologists call it the generativity drive. It's that completely natural, wonderful desire you have to guide and nurture and support the next generation. It's a huge part of a fulfilling life, but when that powerful internal drive meets all those external pressures from your kids without any clear boundaries in place, it can accidentally put that sacrifice creep into overdrive, leaving you feeling totally wiped out instead of fulfilled. So the crucial point here, the one thing I really want you to take away from this first part is this. The expectations being put on you are structural, not personal. It's not that your kids are being uniquely demanding, it's that the entire structure of modern life is demanding it of them. And you just happen to be the most available, trusted resource they have. Taking the personal guilt out of the equation and seeing it as a structural problem, that is what gives you the power to find a structural solution.
And that brings us right to the solution, because if the problem is structural, the answer has to be too. We call it the Reciprocal Boundary Protocol, or RBP for short. Now, this is not about just saying no to everything and shutting down. Not at all. It's about creating a clear, predictable, and sustainable system that lets you give generously without giving yourself away. It's about moving from that feeling of reactive sacrifice to a feeling of proactive, purposeful contribution.
The RBP is really built on three core pillars, three different kinds of boundaries that all work together. First, you've got the time boundary, which is all about swapping out that 24/7 on-call feeling for a more structured schedule. Second is the money boundary, which creates a kind of unbreakable firewall to protect your financial security. And third, the emotional boundary. This one's a subtle but really powerful shift in how you communicate. So let's break each of these down.
Okay, let's start with time. That availability paradox we talked about, it can make your time seem like an infinite resource to your kids. A time boundary flips that script. You commit to scheduled, reserved blocks of time for helping. For instance, saying, I'm available to help with the grandkids every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. See, that's not a rejection, it's a clarification. It changes your role from an on-call emergency service to a reliable but finite resource. This protects your energy and, just as important, it teaches your kids to plan ahead. Next up, and listen, this one is absolutely critical, the money boundary. The whole goal here is to build a firewall between two kinds of money. The money you've planned and budgeted to give as gifts, and your core retirement capital. The money you actually need to live on. That core capital, it's non-negotiable. It is not an emergency fund for your adult children. By making that separation crystal clear, you guarantee your own long-term security and you protect the legacy you want to leave behind. And finally, the emotional boundary. Now, this might be the most powerful and honestly, the most challenging one. It means you have to consciously shift your role from being the fixer to being the validator. So when your kid calls you in a panic, your first instinct is to jump in and solve the problem. Instead, the goal is to validate their feeling. Wow, that sounds incredibly stressful. I'm so sorry you're going through that. You're offering empathy without taking on the job of fixing it. It lowers your emotional workload, and crucially, it empowers them to find their own solutions.
Okay, so understanding the what is one thing, but the how do you actually start doing this without creating a bunch of conflict? The key is to be gentle, to be consistent, and to be strategic. This isn't about having one big dramatic blow-up. It's about introducing small, new patterns into how you communicate. Let's look at 4 practical things you can do to build these new habits.
Here are 4 concrete things you can literally start doing today. First, create a time budget. Yep, just like a financial one. Decide how many hours a week you're willing and able to dedicate to helping out, and put them on the calendar. Second, develop a redirect script for those out-of-the-blue requests. Third, bring in a reciprocity check, a gentle way to encourage partnership. And fourth, practice using specific boundary language.
And this right here is a perfect example of a redirect script. When a spontaneous request for your time or money comes in over the phone, it really puts you on the spot, right? Using a calm, neutral phrase like this is a total game changer. It does 3 things at once. It validates their request as important, it buys you time to think without pressure, and it moves the conversation from an emotional, urgent space to a more logical, planned one. It's the same idea with boundary language. It's all about using an external, objective rule to communicate your limits. Just saying, "I can't give you that money," can feel like a personal rejection. But saying something like, "I'd love to help, but my financial plan dictates what I can contribute right now," well, that shifts the reason from you to the plan. The budget becomes the bad guy, not you. It completely depersonalizes the no and helps preserve the relationship.
You know, making these kinds of changes, it takes some courage and a lot of patience, but it's so important to focus on the long-term benefits. This is not about pulling away from your family. It's about finding a way to stay engaged and supportive for the rest of your life without completely burning out. It's a shift from just putting out fires to investing in long-term family health.
What we're really talking about here is a huge shift in perspective. The old model, this idea of guilt-driven sacrifice, it feels loving in the moment, but we all know where it leads: burnout, resentment, and strained relationships. The new model, sustainable contribution, is purposeful, it's controlled. It lets you give from a place of abundance, not obligation. And that is the only way to protect your well-being and your family connections for the long haul.
I really want this idea to sink in. Setting these boundaries is not selfish. In fact, it might be the most responsible and loving thing you can do for yourself, and by extension for your whole family. By protecting your own resources, your time, your money, your energy, you are making sure you can continue to be a source of strength and wisdom and support for many, many years to come.
So, to bring this all together into one clear, actionable step, let's finish with a final, gentle challenge. This is about taking the abstract idea of a money boundary and making it completely concrete and personal for your life. We're going to define what we call your guilt-free gift zone. So I want you to take a moment, maybe right after this explainer, and seriously answer this question. Take a look at your finances and figure out the maximum amount of money you can give away in a year without touching your core retirement savings or messing with your financial plan. This number isn't about what your kids need, it's about what you can sustainably give. This number, it becomes your North Star. And once you have that number, I want you to make a quiet commitment to yourself. Any request that would push you over that annual limit gets answered using your new boundary language. You are going to route that decision to your objective financial plan. This one act creates that firewall we talked about. It's your clear, non-emotional, non-negotiable line in the sand.
So as we wrap up, just remember that core idea. This pressure you're feeling is structural. It's not personal. The solution is to create a system for yourself, a reciprocal boundary protocol, with a scheduled time budget and a firm financial firewall. By setting these clear, respectful limits, you get to shift from being a rescuer to being a sustainable resource. You protect your health, you protect your legacy, and you make sure your support always remains a source of strength, not sacrifice, for everyone you love.